Grace and peace be multiplied unto you. I welcome you to this lesson on algebraic expression. So this is the introduction video to algebraic expression, and we are going to learn what algebraic expression actually is. So algebra. What is algebra? When we talk about, okay, we'll get into it soon, but we at the end of this lesson we'll be looking at the definition of algebra, variable, replacement sets, substitution, constants, symbols of grouping, symbols of relationship, algebraic term, algebraic expression, factors, numerical coefficients, and literal coefficients. So we understand everything as we move on. Let's look at the meaning of algebra. Now, in mathematics, there is an aspect dedicated in mathematics called algebra. And so algebra is a branch of mathematics which generalizes the facts of arithmetics. In the language of algebra, letters along with numbers and operation symbols are used to create expressions. So very soon we will look at the meaning of expressions. But when it comes to arithmetic simply is addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. So the branch of mathematics that deals with the use of letters, example x, and numbers like 3 or anything, let's say y, is what we call algebra. So algebra is a form of math, but it doesn't have to do with numbers alone, but it has to do with a lot of letters, and you'll get to see the name of these letters I'm talking about. So algebra is a branch of math which generalizes the facts in arithmetic. Let's look at a variable. So in algebra we make use of what we call a variable. And a variable is anything that can stand for different numbers at different times, or they represent any number from a given replacement set. Let's look at something. So x is equal to 1, x is equal to 2. What this means is that wherever you find x, it could be 1 or 2. So this x here doesn't have a single value. It has a value of 1, it has a value of 2. So when we say something is a variable, it means the thing can vary. Vary means it can change. So it can be 1, it can be 2. That is why these letters in algebra are called variables, because they can change. So variables could be y, it could be x, it could be a, it could be any letter in the alphabet. And these are all variable. So you shouldn't be new to the term variable. A variable is just a letter in the alphabet. It could even be in the Greek alphabet, like let's say alpha. This is a Greek alphabet. So it simply stands in for a number. That's what a variable is. So examples of variables, we have x, y, z, a, b, c. So these are all examples of variables. These are all examples of variables. So this is a variable, this is a variable, this is a variable, this is a variable. Replacement set, the set of values of the variable. So in the previous example that I made, like x is equal to 1, x is equal to 2, the replacement sets of x will be 1 and 2, because wherever you find x, you can put 1. Wherever you find x, you can put 2, and all is right. So substitution, replacing a variable by a constant. So another thing you need to notice, any number in algebra is called a constant. It's called a constant. Any number in algebra is called a constant. It's called a constant. So substitution, like the word says, is basically replacing a constant or a number with a variable. So if I say x is equal to 1, and then I give you something like x plus 3, when I'm substituting x is equal to 1, wherever I find x, I put what? 1. So it becomes 1 plus 3. And that is what we term as substitution. So let's look at examples. So if x is equal to 1, then when you have something like x plus 7, wherever you find x, you put 1, and you have what? 1 plus 7, which is 8. When you have x is equal to 2, wherever you find 2, wherever you find x, you put 2, and you have 2 plus 7, you have 9. When you have x equal to 3, wherever you find x, you put 3 and x plus 7, so 3 plus 7 is 10. So that is replacement. So this is the replacement set, and this is substitution. Constants, like I explained earlier, constant is a symbol which has exactly one number in its replacement. So a constant cannot change. Like 3. Whatever you do to 3, 3 is 3. It can't change. It can't be replaced by another thing. 3 is just constant. And like the name says, constant. Anything that is constant cannot change. So numbers are constants in algebra. Examples of constants: 7, 4, 11. These are constants. Another example is also pi. So pi is a constant. It can't change wherever you go in the world. Pi is 3.17, and pi is used in circles. It's spelled this way, pi. It's used in calculation, so that when you get to the higher level, you realize that pi r squared is the area of a circle. So symbols of grouping. So we have things that are used to group expressions or numbers in algebra, and we have parentheses. Parentheses look like this. Parentheses look like this. This is what we call a bracket. This is what we call a bracket. So note the name. This is what we call parentheses, and this is what we call a bracket, and this is what we call braces, and this is a bar or a fraction bar. This is what we use for the division sign. So note the terms here. So this is how we use them. So parentheses is for grouping, brackets are for grouping, braces are for grouping. So when you have something like this is just a number, and it keeps growing. But then the first thing that comes, you realize that the more it's expanded, you can use the braces. The braces can be used, and in order to differentiate, so if there's another group in the group, then you can use the brackets, and then you can also use the parentheses. So these are just used to differentiate the various groups in a larger group. Okay, but you can use it anyhow. It doesn't matter the form in which you use it. It doesn't need to be this before that before this. You can use it anyhow. but it's just to show the difference that this is one group, this is another group, and this is the full group. Okay. Symbols of relationship. So in algebra, you are likely to compare two or more things, and so these are symbols that are used for comparison. Example, when you find an equal to sign that is crossed, it's called not equal to. That is the name. And this is called a less than, like we know in maths, and this is greater than or equal to. This is less than or equal to. This is greater than or equal to. This is the less than symbol, greater than symbol, and this is the equation sign or the equal to sign. So example, x plus 7 is less than 10, x is equal to 1, x plus 7 is less than 10, 8 is less than 10. The number, so factors. So I remember we did factors in class some time ago. Numbers and symbols in a product. That's the meaning of a factor. So when you have 8, factors of 8 will be 1, 2, 4, and 8. So these are all things you'll be using in algebra. So that's a factor, and I'm sure you all know what factors are. So factor of a number basically is what two numbers are you going to multiply to get the product. So -3 and 2, when you multiply them together, you're going to get -6. So these are the factors. The same way, when you multiply x by x, you're going to get x raised to the power 2. So these are factors of -x squared. Numerical coefficient. In the number in an algebra term. So the number in an algebra term is called a numerical coefficient. Let's look at an example. So an example is 3x. So this is a numerical coefficient. Coefficient is a number attached to a variable. So the number attached to a variable. So this is what we call the coefficient. So this is what we call the numerical coefficient. It's a number in an algebra term. Let's look at literal coefficient. A letter used to represent a number. A letter used to represent a number. So an example is when you have a letter like x equals to 1. This becomes the literal coefficient. The literal coefficient becomes the number representing the variable. Let's look at examples. So 4 here is a numerical coefficient because it is the number beside the variable, and the literal coefficient is x. This is because when we have something like x is equal to 1, this 1 is a constant and it can be represented in place of x. So numerical coefficient is a number beside the variable, and literal coefficient is a number that can replace the x. So when you look at it critically, the literal coefficient can also be called a variable. The literal coefficient can also be called a variable. Let's look at an algebraic term. Either an algebraic term is either a single number or a letter or a product of several numbers or letters. So when you see something like this is what we call algebraic term. This is also called an algebraic term. So addition of either a variable and a number is called a term, an algebraic term. You can also have another algebraic term to be a plus b plus 2. This is also an algebraic term. X plus y plus a plus b is also an algebraic term. So the addition of variables and constants is what we call algebraic term. And it cannot also just be addition. It can also be addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. Algebraic expression: a statement containing one or more terms connected by a plus or minus sign. So algebraic term, the difference between algebraic expression is that an algebraic expression has two or more algebraic terms. Two or more algebraic terms. Break terms. So this can be an algebraic term. This can also be an algebraic term. But then when you have a lot of them, like a series of them, example, this is an algebraic expression. So it has one or more, two or more algebraic terms in there. So let's look at the difference between algebraic expression and the algebraic term. So this here is a term. 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 So these are all, what I've circled are all algebraic terms. But algebraic expression is when you put these terms together to form an expression. Okay. So this is an algebraic expression. This is an algebraic expression. Let's look at algebraic equation. So algebraic equation is a statement containing one or more terms connected by plus or minus with a symbol of equality. So what makes the difference between algebraic expression and algebraic equation is that algebraic equation has an equal to sign or a symbol of equality. That's all. So let's look at examples of algebraic equation. This is an algebraic equation because it has an equal to sign. This is an algebraic equation because it has an equal to sign. So without the equation sign, it's just an expression. So to clarify things, this is a term. These are terms. Constants are also terms. Variables are terms. X, Y. These are all individual terms. And this is an expression. This is an expression. This is an expression. And this is an equation, an algebraic equation. Why? Because it has an equal to sign. Okay. So this is the end of the introduction to algebra. I've given some exercises and I hope that this video helps you to solve or answer the exercises I've given you. Until the next lesson, stay safe. Bye bye.